I think that why they are pushing the electric vehicles and getting rid of gas vehicles so hard right now, and this is all conspiracy theory. This is just me connecting dots. But they're conditioning people for like getting used to rolling blackouts and food shortages. Like 2020 to me was all a test. They wanted to see how the vast majority of the populations would respond to what the globalist agenda, to the globalist narrative. They wanted to see how we would react, and I don't think they were too happy. I think they thought a lot of us would react differently, especially Trump supporters, because he's the one that initially pushed the shot, and still to this day is like all for it. But at least he wants us to have choice. But if you think about you not being able to be mobile at all, they want us all in these cities, right? Not being able to have a car, at least a car that has gas. And even so, the having a gasoline vehicle is still sensitive to other people. Like if you run out of gas, you still need gas stations and things of that nature to be able to move around. So if, like, just like a rolling blackout, there's no electricity to charge your electric vehicle. If there's no gas because people are using it all up and we don't have continuous supply, you'll be in a similar circumstance. However, I think that it's probably easier to store gasoline than it is electricity, especially if you aren't in one of these cities and these pods that they want us to be in. But gas doesn't last that long. What I'm getting at is Social Security is going to run out they're predicting 2034. Okay. It is possible, from what I'm hearing, Medicaid runs out in like 2026. Something like that. One of those welfare, government welfare, whatever it's called, programs. And technically, Social Security is not welfare. It's just people are pretty much not. It doesn't make a lot of sense with inflation and all that. That's what whatever I put in, like, I can't live off of that when I'm older, because they don't count for inflation. That's why like the 401k is kind of like dumb to me. Like, okay, yeah, I could have been saving this whole time in 401k, but I might have acquired, with no mistakes, mind you, I might have acquired probably 50,000 in my 401k if I made zero mistakes in my life. What would that do? Like, and I got what, 20 more years? So how could I live off of that? Maybe I'd acquire $100,000. Like, how long would that last me in a retirement in this society? It wouldn't. It's because of inflation. So with these, the government keeps on printing out more money. They're not taking care of our major cities, the infrastructure, education, the crime, any of that. They're not doing anything. But then they throw money to other countries like Israel and Ukraine, and just completely ignore our cities. When you got Jackson, Mississippi that don't have running water, Flint, Michigan still is not fixed 10 years later, something like that. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. Man, if I could just, I'm trying to think of everything. That's why I'm not letting it roll off my tongue. Man, people are so entitled. They just walk out in the middle of the street when it's fucking dark like an idiot. So with these programs running out and them adding more to our debt, where we're going to get to the point where whatever interest we owe on our debt, it's going to match how much GDP we bring in every year. So traditionally, usually from a couple years ago, it was around $3.5 trillion we'd bring in a year. And somewhere around like $400 billion we paid in interest a year. Well, at some point, when we're bringing in as much GDP as how much interest we owe, it's not sustainable. We're bankrupt at that point. Not to mention, we have threats of BRIC, Russia, China, Brazil, and a couple other countries. I think Mexico's trying to get in this, trying to make a world currency that is backed by commodities instead of ours, which is backed by other countries' slavery and guns, and something else I forgot, but I probably mentioned in a different video. We won't be the world reserve currency no more. And that's what makes America so valuable, because everyone backs their currency with ours. We're going to have hyperinflation when all of our dollars come rushing back in, when no one wants to take our dollars because they're so devalued. And the elites know this, and this is why they're trying to push for depopulation. These cities, if we continue down this path without serious intervention, like serious intervention of like I'm not for our money system because I know who owns it, and it's just a debt-based system, these cities are going to be, like Turf-Filling Monkey said, killing fields. And if you have an electric vehicle, or you don't have a vehicle at all, once they hit that switch where the power gets shut off and doesn't come back on, it's only gonna, all the stores will be wiped out. And then after that, people are going to kill each other for resources, and they're not going to be able to escape these cities. Hell, they might even block off, the military might even block off routes from getting out of these cities. I wish these cities, I think it'd be cool to live in a city if it was like being able to walk where I needed to go, being able to walk to work, being able to walk to the gym, not have to rely on this. But the complete mismanagement of our economy and people not seeing what's going on is just crazy to me. It's like, it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. It makes me think that this is intentional. They want us trapped in these cities, dude. They want us trapped in these cities. Like, if you want, here's what we have to do, though. We have to build communities outside of cities. This is the counteractive to what they want. For instance, there's a town in Missouri called Skidmore, and just look it up, man. There's this guy who was a town bully, right? And he shot a couple people. He intimidated like the whole town. He was a pedophile, and they tried him. I think they convicted him, but they didn't put him in prison yet. And they had to do all these like stances or whatever his lawyer was doing, and he's still threatening people. So the town ended up shooting him right in the middle of town, and there's multiple gunmen right in the middle of the daytime. This town's only like 300 people. In 1980. So this wasn't even like the Wild West, right? He bullied the cops. Everyone was afraid of him. Even the cops were afraid of him. In the movie I seen that depicted what happened is like the cop even like resigned because he was scared of him. He'd like stalk people's families and stuff like that. Well, no, the FBI went in there, all the local cops and sheriffs or whatever, and they interviewed people. Nobody spoke up. Nobody said who shot the guy. And the movie depicted, he was in a bar. The whole town walked in. They were having a town meeting about him, right? So he heard about it. He had a friend that told him about it. He came down to the bar with his wife. Then it caught on that he was in town. The whole town went in there in the bar basically. And then he walked out of the bar with his wife into his truck. And then they shot him. They didn't shoot his wife, but they shot him. And there was like 2 different shooters, possibly 3 different shooters. And even the FBI got involved, and nobody spoke up. And still to this day, nobody knows who shot him. this is, if you're in a good community, there's nothing that the law enforcement can do. This is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing that they can do. You basically make your own fucking laws. As long as everyone has your back. I mean, the cops could have rounded up everybody in that town, but they didn't. But if you got a bunch of communities like this, what I'm not saying like what they did was the correct thing to do. What I'm trying to say is, even so much as like killing somebody or murdering somebody in broad daylight, that's the name of the movie. And this was a true story. You can look it up. I think his name is Ken McElroy or something. Even in broad daylight or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing that they could have done to convict people if everyone stuck together. If you got a bunch of decentralized communities, there's nothing that they can do. The feds can't do nothing. If you got a bunch of communities, like if people just stopped living in these major cities. And this is what kind of baffles me about people on my side, is like, why are they, all these rich people, not building up communities? There's so many like these ghost towns that have like infrastructure where you got like an old mill or an old warehouse. Why are we not like cranking that bitch back up with something new and having people live in these communities? You know, being self-sufficient as much as possible. In this type of community, you don't even need, you could have your own type of currency. Barter, trade. Don't even need the American dollar. I think that the Amish don't even pay taxes or something. Not taxes. I think, what is it that they don't have to pay? Social Security? I think they opted out of something like that. One of those type of taxes they opted out of. But if people en masse start building up little communities like that, not like that, but you know, like small communities, start revitalizing these communities, not and had strong communities, and not let people like drug dealers in there or criminals. You know, you can make up your own laws. This is when they say like local elections are more important than like the president or whatever, because these local elections dictate like the laws for where you live. But yeah, you could have like that's the key to this. The counteractive to them, because like, listen, man, the dollar is going to be pretty much worthless, and they know this. This is why I think that they're doing what they're doing. I think that they want these cities to be destroyed so they can come in there and buy it for pennies on the dollar. You know, there's some great real estate in these cities. Like San Francisco and LA. I mean, it's right by the beach or whatever. New York is right off the coast. You know, I hear these people on the left saying that red states are like welfare states or whatever, or these blue states make all the money. Well, if they generate more income is because they have ports, and they can import and export things very easily. Like where I live in Missouri, we have a river. If we didn't have rail, or it doesn't make sense for a Freightliner to come up the river. It just does not. I don't think it could anyway with the little bridges. So that's why they generate more money, in my opinion. But we don't make things anymore. We don't make things like we used to. And they want us reliant on them as much as possible. I gotta get in there, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's they want us stuck in the cities, so we end up getting ravaged, and you can't get out. You're stuck in there. That's what it seems like. Like these movies, I don't think I forgot Escape from LA. I might have seen them when I was a kid, but a lot of these movies, it's like, is that like their blueprint? Did they like have plans and they're like, hey, let's make this into a movie? Demolition Man? All right.